On Education is sponsored by Participate, a community learning platform where the world learns together. Later in the episode, we'll hear about one of Participate's partners, The Sandbox, and how you can get involved in its free community learning opportunities and live streams.
Oh, wow. Who hurt you, Glenn? Who hurt you? Welcome to On Education, part of the On Podcast Media Network. My name is Mike Washburn.
And I'm Glen Irvin. Friends, we have an awesome pod for you today. We will discuss the huge news about Nearpod, the landing of the Mars Rover, Glen's hot take on a certain Tik-Tok teacher, and our guests this week are educators and authors, Kristin and Joe Merrill.
So tell me about you rage quitting FIFA, because you told me about it. You texted me. But I want to hear what actually happened, because I mean, first off, rage quitting isn't usually common, I assume, with soccer games.
This one is, yeah. I think it might be common with FIFA.
Okay, tell me what happened. Talk to me, Glenn.
I think more than anything, I have spent an inordinate amount of time on FIFA. I don't want to discuss how many hours because it's been way too many.
Oh, I can just go look it up.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I don't want anyone to know.
I'm going to go look it up.
It's some insane amount of hours. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I'm I would say a below average player who wants to be an average player.
Okay.
And I'm just not that good. And I was like, Mike's mouth just dropped open, but don't say the number. Just the audience know that it's a large,
it's a really high number.
It's a large number of hours.
That is at least 3 times what I was expecting.
So anyway, audience, it is a gigantic number, and Glenn has thought, I don't even know how much I actually like the game. That can't be a good thing. I find more moments where I'm angry than more moments that I'm happy. So I was like, why am I doing this? So I actually not only rage quit the game, but I uninstalled it. And
cold turkey.
And I'm not gonna. And I you know what else I did, Mike? Check out this. I got crazy. I went onto my YouTube. And I subscribe to all kinds of things, right? Just, video game stuff.
Did you unsub to your FIFA
I
unsub
channels? To everything that had to do with FIFA. I've even now, when the suggestions come up, because they know that I watch certain videos, I go, stop suggesting this to me. I put on everything.
Wow.
So,
who hurt you, Glenn? Who hurt you?
It was more a realization of like, I can play other things that I actually enjoy, have fun with.
Yeah.
Maybe even like Valheim or Stardew Valley. Where I'm like having fun and it's an
Stardew
enjoyable
Valley's
time.
Happy too.
Exactly, like our farming game that we used to play, where it just like you just sit there and you're listening to the music and you're just kind of you're enjoying the time in the space. And I found myself very aggravated and angry. A lot, and that's not a space I want to be in. So
no,
I
games aren't supposed to do that.
No, and it
games
did
are
do
supposed
that.
To be,
it did do that to me. And I already play a competitive game, a very competitive game in Hearthstone, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I'm playing 2 ultra competitive games, of one of which I am below average, and that might be a stretch. I might be way below average. And it's a game of skill, of joystick skill, So I'm playing against kids, probably some 7 or 8 year old kid who's just destroying me and
wiping the floor with you.
Yeah, and then doing little celebrations and taunting me,
his nickname is Noob Owner.
Yeah. So I'm just like, what? What am I doing? So anyway, it's uninstalled, and I'm so done with it.
You're moving on with your life.
Yes.
That's hilarious. I've been playing. I bought a game called Dyson Sphere Program.
Oh, what is that one?
People should look this game up, because it is the combination, the very cool combination of Satisfactory and Factorio. So it's like resource management and a management simulator, but it's also in space. So it's got you can actually like go to other planets and create factories on other planets as well, and then have like interconnected trade networks between the planets in the systems. It's pretty wild, and I'm into it. So that's what I've been playing. So don't play FIFA. Play Dyson Sphere program. Play Valheim. It's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And that's our game update for the week. Hey, if you haven't slid into Audrey Thornborough's DMs, you should. She is giving out stickers like crazy, and mailing them off to folks. So go look up Audrey on the Twitters. She passed 1,000 followers this week.
She's awesome.
Or last week, I guess, and she's been helping us out. We're trying to thank our previous guests and stuff by giving them some stickers as well. So this has been a lot of fun to see. Folks are starting to get them. Share them on Twitter when you get them. Tell us how much you like them. Show us where you put them. If you put them on your laptops or your water bottles. I think Kathy Chow Isaacs put hers on her water bottle right beside her Hello Kitty sticker, which means that's how you know it's serious. So yeah, thank you everybody for sharing the stickers and keep sharing, because we love that. You have very strong opinions on this, and I'm just in it for the what is it, the Schadenfreude of it all. But you know, here's my so okay.
Let's set it up.
Set the table, Glenn.
Okay. So there's a teacher. I guess he's a teacher. And his name is Samuel Sleeves. At least that's his name on social media. Who knows if that's his real name?
It's at least his name on TikTok and Twitter. Yeah,
and he has a series of videos, of which there was this one that was shared.
Had a series of videos.
Oh, that's a different part of the story. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So he had a series of videos, and anyway, there was this one specific video that was shared, and actually it was just someone just commented and said, "Why do this?" That's all their question was. Why share this kind of thing? There was a lot of commentary, and actually it was in the millions of views, this video, this specific one. And in the video, there's a little tag, a headline kind of thing that you can post over TikTok videos, obviously, or whatever kind of videos. And it says, Gen Z kids having no knowledge of significant historical figures and events. And actually, I went to his TikTok, Mike, and he had several of these with this headline. So he had recorded a series of these, and he had recorded a series of other things too from his classroom. There were so many levels of things that were wrong with it, but the part that really pissed me off was that he has these students in his class, and he's posting this, basically humiliating them. Their commentary, the kids' commentary, and he doesn't show their pictures, but he has their voices on there. And they're about, in this case, some World War II type of historical figures and events and so on and so forth. And I'm assuming he's a history or a social studies teacher of some sort. I'm not exactly sure. That's what they were discussing there. And the kids are throwing out all kinds of different things, talking about Helen Keller, and, they weren't aware of who that person was, and D-Day and so on and so forth, and several other things. There were historical events. Nazis were kind of thrown out there also. But anyway, it was a video intended to basically say that not only does this whole generation have no knowledge of significant historical figures and events, Generation Z, but specifically the kids in his class that he is in charge of to lift up. And, we were talking about those awesome, amazing actors and actresses that have played great teachers in our last episode. And this guy has the amazing, we all do, the amazing job. We have had that opportunity of being able to teach kids in front of us. And what a blessing that is. that's not something that you should just take lightly. And I hate people that do that. And he not only did that, but he's also basically burning them, making fun of their lack, supposedly, of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I had several things about this. Number one, that's so messed up. You don't do that. And for a lot of reasons. But number one, you're in charge of these kids to lift them up and who they actually are. And of course, it can be associated back, Mike, who these kids specifically are, because they can figure out who this teacher is, where he teaches at, who the kids are in his class are not that hard to find out nowadays. Then you can figure out specifically who was talking in that video, who are the people, the kids, the kids that are saying certain things. And then you have him, and the worst part, the part that infuriated me the most, Mike, is he looks at the camera on his phone several times. Like looking at it, like they would say something, that was wrong or whatever. And he'd look at it like, oh, I can't believe they don't know that. Can you believe these kids? Kind of something like that.
Yeah. And
I'm like, that's disgusting. You got your 80.5 million views on that one video that I saw. But you know what else you got, dude? You got someone that is intent of making sure to report you to your administration and to at least have you checked out for I don't think any of that is appropriate as an educator. It's a violation of the kids' rights. Did you ask them if you could go ahead and post this? I highly doubt that. And did you ask their parents if you could post this, like you burning them on social media? I highly doubt that they know that you did that also. It just, to me, says, man, what a lack of character this person has. Mm-hmm. Who cares about the kids not knowing those specific things? Like a lot of people were caught up and fascinated by, they don't know who Helen Keller is. You know what? That's our job. That's your job, dude. You find out where are they at, as far as different things. And then you know this, Mike, because you're a history buff. You know this and you studied history and you know about it. And the stories, you draw people in with these amazing historical events.
History is amazing. History is amazing.
And you draw people into it and they want to hear the stories, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the date or whatever it might be. You can learn those things too, and they're important. But it's more about those stories and understanding the relationship of why Helen Keller was important and continues to be important to this day, and what events, kind of how everything basically comes full circle, and how you can tie them all together, and they leave that class, and not only do they know who that person is, but they understand the significance of those things, and that is your job. Not posting this crap on TikTok or wherever else, and then getting a bunch of, likes and followers and et cetera, whatever it might be on like I think you posted something like this as far as on Twitter, and I definitely retweeted it, on the backs of your kids. Basically using the humiliation of the kids so that you can become popular. Oh man, dude.
This jackass was clout chasing on Twitter or on TikTok, trying to become TikTok famous on the backs of students.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that it backfired.
Yes.
On the TikTok videos, well, first off, let's be clear. The TikTok videos are gone. So if you want to go and look at them, they're not there anymore. You know what he did? He deleted them all. You know why he deleted them all? Because he knew what he was doing was wrong. Mm-hmm. And when he got called out on his BS, he deleted them all because he was scared of what? Of losing his job.
Yeah.
Which, he still might do anyways, because it's not like the videos are gone. They're on Twitter. And I was just tweeted by our friend Nick that I don't know who Taylor Lorenz is, but she's got a blue check mark and 220,000 followers. Yeah. And she retweeted one of his dumbass videos. And put him on blast for it. So it's not like his trash is going anywhere.
No,
there's always out there. It's a classic lesson in digital citizenship. Something that he should. I could roll my eyes at you, dummy, for doing something so stupid.
I call out, Mike, and I've done it on this show in past episodes, like another adult on some sort of behavior, whatever it might be. And if that's what you want to do, as far as on your TikTok, you want to call out other adults, then go ahead, I guess. I mean, it's, at least it's another adult. But the kids that you're in charge of and you're using it to make fun of them or say, how dumb they are, how they lack knowledge because they don't know a specific thing. Yeah. And in my commentary was this. When I was of a specific age for a long time, I was a freaking jerk in school. And if I knew a teacher, if I didn't respect the teacher, if I didn't respect you and you didn't earn my respect. Yeah. And not that you needed to, but I'm just saying I this is the type of student that I was. I would intentionally say and do things that were the wrong answers and whatever it might be, whether or not I knew the stuff, because that's the behavior of an adolescent, of a kid. Yeah. This is so whether or not they knew the things or not, we don't even know that. We do know though that he was sitting there recording a series of videos of these Gen Z kids having no knowledge of significant historical events. And what it did start to, and this is a super frustrating thing for all educators, is that you have people like this guy, and he posts this, and then guess what? All the backlash of non-educators was when they saw this, Mike. They're like, that's why public education is horrible. All teachers are terrible. The standards today are horrible. So they're blaming, they put the blame then on the whole entire system and all of us for the supposed lack of knowledge of these kids, which again, I don't even believe it, that those kids did or didn't know. And if they did not know, what an amazing opportunity, Mike, to be able to say, hey, you know what? We got a place to start at. We're going to start at the beginning, and we're really gonna draw you in, and I'm gonna make sure that by the time you leave my class, whether or not whatever it might be, you will not only understand who these people are and the events that happen, but you'll feel passionate and drawn in to share that with someone else and go, did you know this? This actually happened.
Yeah, you'll go home and you'll say, hey, Mom, Dad, let me tell you about Helen Keller.
Yes.
Instead of my teacher made fun of me today because I didn't know about Helen Keller. Like, this dummy did everything wrong. So I hope he learns his lesson.
Yeah.
I think he's in for a world of trouble. And we call it like we see it. And there's a lot of other great teachers on TikTok. I even hate the idea of it giving teacher TikTok a bad name, because I've seen some really cool content from educators on TikTok who are doing and inspiring their kids using the platform that the kids want to be on. If this guy doesn't think that his kids aren't going to see or hadn't seen those things, I mean, he should be ashamed of himself, because
they saw it.
I mean, I have no doubt that they saw it. Yeah. So let's, it's something else.
Yeah.
Hey, let's move on to talking about a couple other things, because I think we could put this guy on blast all day. Mm-hmm. I'm a giant, in addition to being a giant history, I'm just a giant nerd all around. But, space.
You're a space nerd. I remember this.
Is also really, really something. And I'll tell you, man, the things we can do. Mm. We flew to another planet with a car that has a drone on it, for the record.
Crazy.
And then we dropped it down using cables, just nice and softly on the ground. And then the thing that dropped it down just kind of flew away. and then in a couple weeks, friends, a little tiny helicopter is going to just float out of that drone, out of that car, and show you what it sees. And we did that on a planet 33 million miles away.
Wow.
The things we can do make my head explode.
Yeah.
It is astounding how smart people are to think we've done other crazy we dropped a rover like a bouncy ball once on Mars.
On Mars.
And we've done this little dropping with the carrier thing and the flying. We've done that twice now. Twice we've done this thing where we've just gently landed a rover on a planet with a little floaty platform that then just goes and flies away when it's done its job. It's just astounding. And I don't know if anyone related to anyone or anyone, is involved in this that listens to our podcaster, but congratulations, for God's sakes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's an astounding accomplishment. And I pray to God that, I need teachers to start playing this stuff in their class. Stop what you're doing. And the next time one of those SpaceX tests comes up, play it. Stop what you're doing and watch it. You will get a better use of. There is no better use of 1 hour of your time in your class with your kids than showing them what's possible.
Yeah.
In almost every situation.
Love that.
Show them what's possible. Show them the future that they're going to live in. And that one day, we are teaching the kids that are going to live on Mars. I've been saying this for a decade. This is the generation, my son's generation, our kids, Glenn, are the kids. That's the generation that is going to live on Mars.
That's insane. And this Generation Z that kid that was that dumb teacher was making fun of, they are going to figure out all of those things and do amazing things there.
Yeah.
And continue just the astounding, what you were just describing. They were talking about just the complexity of the mathematics to make that actually happen, Mike, as far as what you were describing, just that setting that thing and then being able to go ahead and know exactly how to go ahead and launch this specific thing at the exact right angle, at the exact right times, and how to go ahead and basically create something that could land on, like you said, on a planet, a different friggin' planet.
On a 20-minute delay. You can't fix things in space.
No.
It's already happened by the time you know about it.
By the time you even know, yes. Oh, amazing and awesome. You're right, Mike.
Every piece, there is no room for any mistakes in that. And you know what? The biggest takeaway is we spend our entire lives making mistakes so that one time when we can't make a mistake, we're ready for it.
Yeah. Great point.
Right?
Yes.
Spend your entire make all of the mistakes, friends. Teaching, learning, kids, not kids, whatever. Because you need to be when you need to land a rover on Mars and you can't screw it up, you need to be perfect. Make all the mistakes so that you're ready to be perfect when you need to be perfect. Inspiring is is an understatement for what these folks are able to do, and it's super super exciting.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. 100%. So we just heard some news. Like, this is like breaking news.
I know.
There will be people listening to this where this might be the first time you've heard of this.
Yes.
But Nearpod just got bought. Like they announced it basically like today in the last couple of days. Nearpod got bought by Renaissance Learning. I think it's bad. It's not. It's fishy. You in particular have a pretty strong love affair with Nearpod, and we know people that work for Nearpod, and we know people that work for Flocabulary, that work for Nearpod now, and I would love to. Hopefully, if you're listening and you work for Nearpod, jump into my DMs because I'd love to just talk to you about it.
Yeah,
but I imagine, especially those Flocab folks that worked for a really innovative small company that was doing some really cool stuff. I'm not sure they signed up to go and work for basically a company that's made their way on testing. That's just like they could have all the money in the world, Renaissance, and it seems like they do because they paid what $650 million
yes,
for Nearpod. Listen, you can have all the money in the world, but if your values don't align with the company that you're working for, then the money doesn't matter. In a lot of cases, it's why I love working for who I work for, and working with the people I love working with is because I know at the end of the day, that my values align and my goals and my ideas for the way I see learning and teaching in the future of that, aligns. And
so if people don't know, Renaissance Learning are the creators of a ton of different software and specifically assessments. But in specific states, you may be familiar with something called the STAR tests, which are quite a few states throughout the U.S. use the STAR test as one of the assessments, and that's part of their company. And this is it's kind of freaky, when you think about these companies that we like you said, I really love Nearpod. Actually, I said that today, I think on a tweet. Somebody said, what would you be doing? Or maybe it was yesterday, if you weren't teaching. And I said, working for an ed tech company I respect, like Nearpod. And I wouldn't be working for Nearpod anymore. I'd be working for Renaissance Learning, I guess, if I was doing that. And that could always happen. And we've talked about that before, with Schoology, when they got purchased by PowerSchool and all of these companies. I guess there's always an exit strategy, right, Mike? I mean, is there?
Yeah, I mean, all of these startups are looking to get, if you're a startup creator, you're looking to get bought.
Okay.
And it's the disconnect between what the CEO and the CMO and the CFO of Nearpod are thinking, and the educators that are so passionately using their products are thinking. Yeah. And those are not the same thing. It's not, you can be a Schoology ambassador and a Schoology, passionate Schoology teacher, who shared everything they loved about Schoology. With all due respect, I mean, Jeremy Freeman was looking to get bought out, and he was a startup CEO, and how he's a startup CEO because he's starting another company.
He's doing it again.
Right. He's taking the money that he made from Schoology and doing it again. And it's not an education startup because he's not an educator. And Schoology was just a startup, a tech startup. It happened to be an ed tech startup, and it happened to develop a really passionate community around it. But to a lot of people, it was just another tech company. And then it just got bought out. And this is, to be honest, this is just the way it is.
It's brutal, though.
And it's, and then but it's different. Depends on who it is and who's buying. And just as much as we can say, how, and opinions vary, I suppose, but PowerSchool buying Schoology didn't turn out the best for some people, and Renaissance Learning buying Nearpod, who's to say? But for all of the ones we think are bad, there's Microsoft, one of the most powerful tech companies on the planet buying FlipGrid, and that turning out phenomenally.
Fantastic. Yes.
Right?
That actually did. That is a good case. That's the best case scenario. You're right.
Right.
Is the FlipGrid scenario. Because some of us had a paid subscription to FlipGrid. I don't know if there's certain people that probably don't even remember this. But at the beginning,
it wasn't free.
FlipGrid there was a free, like a little, you could dabble in it. Yeah. And then there was a paid version of it. And several of us, we were like, this is such a great tool. I'm buying the paid version. I'm going to have my classroom set up, etc., whatever it might be. And then when Microsoft purchased it, obviously now people that are getting in, now they just see FlipGrid as this free product. But it wasn't that when it was at the beginning as far as the startup itself. It says here, Mike, that that Nearpod is used by 1.2 million teachers across the world, and it's used in 75% of U.S. public school districts. Whew, that's pretty good saturation there. I mean, as far as, and I don't blame you. I love the product, and I hope, when big companies end up purchasing something, it just all depends upon, the details, how they decide to go ahead and move forward, and what does that mean for the end user, for the customers, obviously for the educators and for their students. Could it turn out great? Yeah, it could. But this is a testing company, so we don't know anything.
We'll see how it all turns out. As of today, the United States passed 500,000 deaths due to COVID. Canada, last week passed 21,000 deaths due to COVID. 500,000 is a big number.
Yeah.
It's a big number, no matter how you want to evaluate it. It's a lot of, you can debate the politics. Anyone who's listened to this podcast knows where Glen and I stand on the political side of this. So I would suggest that a lot of those deaths probably could have been avoided.
Yes.
Regardless of that, it does not bring them back. No. And there are a lot of families without parents, and there are a lot of kids without parents. There are a lot of parents without kids. A lot of schools and classes without teachers. And there are a lot of missing, Joe Biden, says it so eloquently when he says that there's a lot of empty seats at tables. And
that's the truth, man.
It's sad to think about. And I've been thinking a lot the last couple days, and especially the last couple hours as I was preparing to do the podcast, also about the folks who are in the grocery stores and delivering things and working in. I have two guys coming into my house every day to work in my basement. They're, and it's scary for us a little bit. It's scary for them, but they need, if they don't keep working,
they need to work.
They don't feed their families, and I feel the pressure of that a little bit. Like, I could say I don't feel comfortable with you in my house anymore, and come back in May, when we think that this has died down a little bit. But what do they do between now and May?
Oh, exactly.
When they don't have anything, they don't have any work. And I've been thinking a lot about the people who are sacrificing so much all the time, constantly, and are probably just absolutely wiped with exhaustion and stress and the pressure of going to a job every day that they definitely do not feel safe doing, and doing it because they know that they're needed, required. And and then I heard a song. One of my favorite artists is a guy named Ben Rector. And I don't know why I had never heard this song until now, but the other day I heard it for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, this song was written in 2015, but all I could think about is these folks that are sacrificing everything. They're putting their families at risk to do a job that no one else wants to do.
No.
At a time when no one else wants to do it, and doing it because it's important, and they feel a sense of duty and honor even in stocking the grocery shelves. And I think that in light of 500,000 folks lost in the United States, 21,000 folks lost in Canada, that I think on behalf of our team, I wanted to say thank you to the folks that are, doing those things.
Yes.
And working hard to keep food on shelves and, fix people's houses and all of that stuff. We're going to play a song for you. We've never done this before. And I wasn't sure exactly how to do it, but we're gonna play this Ben Rector song. It's called "The Men That Drive Me Places."
Howard drives a minivan to the cruise ships from Fort Lauderdale, and it's been that way since 1994. Does his business on a flip phone with the most obnoxious ringtones. I didn't ask, but I could tell he's from New York. He spoke proudly of his daughter, and that this fall she'd be in college, and that he always wished he'd gotten his degree. You could tell he came from nothing, built her future out of hustling, and somehow I'm the one you people pay to see. Oh, isn't that just the way it goes? You're dealt a good hand, then you get celebrated. Oh, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places? Danny showed up early, 15 minutes till 5:30, making sure that I'd be on my morning flight. He said he'd love to fix computers, but that he can't until he's fluent, so he spends his driving money taking class at night. He wore a neatly ironed dress shirt, and he helps his kids with homework. Deep inside I couldn't help but ask myself why that night I'm up on stage, everybody knows my name, while Danny's early picking up somebody else. Oh, isn't that just the way it goes? You dealt a good hand and you get celebrated. Oh, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places? Now everything's not given, I work hard to make a living. I'll give credit where I think the credit's due. Maybe you got dealt a good hand, maybe you play it the best that you can, but I don't know how far you walk without those cards in Howard or Danny's working shoes. That's just the way it goes. You dealt a good hand and you get celebrated. Oh, how am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the men that drive me places?
We are building this virtual community of educators who share an interest in game design and teaching new skills. We will use this space to connect, collaborate, and innovate with the Sandbox.
That's Sebastian Bourget. He's the co-founder and chief operating officer at the Sandbox.
This community is here to provide guidance, support, feedback, and suggestions on how to best use the Sandbox within the context of teaching and learning how to make video games. It allows also to connect experts and educators, bringing together existing creators and members of the Sandbox game platform community with professional educators.
The Sandbox community has grown into a vibrant space of 100 plus educators. How can you get involved? More to come later in the episode.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. We are thrilled to be joined by one of our favorite EDU power couples. The Merrills are the authors of 2 books, including the newest one, FlipGrid in the InterActive class. Welcome to On Education, Joe and Kristin Merrill.
Oh man, we are so excited to be with you guys. We just love you guys, and we cannot hang out. Cannot wait to hang out with you guys.
That was such a nice introduction too. Thank you.
Not bad for winging it, right?
Nah, I don't know if you ever wing anything.
Mike is a pro.
So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves to the audience if they've never heard of you or met you before? Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
All right. Well, my name's Kristin. I am currently a 4th grade teacher. Actually, I've only ever taught 4th grade. I'm going into, I think, my 14th or 15th year teaching. And I have kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. I've been, in a solitary room myself. I've co-taught. I've departmentalized. This year, I have an interesting, since the beginning of the year, I've been, I don't know what they call it, concurrent. I don't know what the terminology is. But I have had a classroom of synchronous students online and then students in person. And then as the kids start to come back, they come back into my in-person class. So it's kind of like that continuous, like fluctual return. So I've had that. That's been my job this year.
And I'm Joe. I'm a 1st grade teacher, but this year, like Kristin, I'm also a kindergarten teacher, apparently. We have the same situation. We have some students online, some in person. And as the students are comfortable enough to come back to school, then they come back into our classroom, not the kindergartners. The kindergartners go back to kindergarten. But we've had to collapse that kindergarten unit because there was only a couple kids that were into that. And so we've taken them into our 1st grade class, which has actually worked out great because these kids are awesome, and I've already called dibs on them for next year. So, it's been great. And I do also, like Kristin, have a co-teacher that I am working with, and it's just been a blessing in disguise because with everything that's gone on for this past year, it's been helpful to be able to toss ideas off of yet somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a weird question. It's kind of a relationship question. I think I asked you a version of this question the last time, but this one is a little bit more in depth. So let me set this up. My wife and I have taught at 5 different schools across 3 different states over the past 20 years. And we're still trying to figure something out. How do you keep school and home life from blending into this mix? Do you guys have like a secret sauce, a way to stop that from kind of coming back in, or is it just inevitable that us couples that we're in the same space, we just you can't help it but bring that work home?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, actually, to be honest, because you have to have that decompression from the day, right? Yes. It's like we ask our kids, how was your day, right? And so being able to decompress a little bit like that, I think is really important. But we also are pretty good with leaving work at work and really trying to focus on other things, and try to be here in the moment with the kids and the boys. And that's really important to us because time is very valuable.
Well, we have a unique structure. I'm trying to think, it's been like this for a while, at least for me and for you. We have a co-teacher at work. We have someone that we work really closely with. Yes. So I find that a lot of those ordinary, mundane, that could have been an email, or those kinds of conversations we tend to have with the person that we work with, that we work more closely with. so that when we come home, sometimes we'll decompress, but I would say more at home, our conversations are, I got this really rad week planned out. Listen to what I'm going to do. Let me bounce ideas off. Those kinds of conversations, a little more than like, hey, you got report cards done? You know, those kinds of conversations we tend to kind of leave at work because I think it's because we have someone that we talk to about those kinds of things. If we were all by ourselves, I think we might come home and those might spill over a little more.
Gotcha.
You two could dominate the social structure at your school, though, especially if like Joe led the clique on one side of the school and Kristin the other side, and so then you could be against each other, but on the same side, you could be like spy. Oh, I'm like wrapping a whole mystery
I
around
like to
this.
fly under the radar.
Well, what's funny is that's kind of what our boys do. Like one's in 5th grade and one's in second, and they're on different opposite sides of the building. And so, especially the one that's in 2nd grade, he thinks he runs the show.
That might be the other reason too, though, because we are in different levels. Like he teaches 6-year-olds. I can't be in a room with like. I can't relate.
We tried it once.
We tried. I can't relate to everything all the time with them. Like, so sometimes those conversations we can't really have either because our worlds are so the same, but they're also so different. Yeah. And that might be, you know, part of it too. We kind of just talk about the ways they overlap.
I can't teach kindergarten. We've talked about this because my wife's a kindergarten teacher, and Joe and my wife have spent some time talking too. And like they can talk to each other and they speak the same language. Can't do it. Tried it. I've got the jacket. I've got the memento. I'm good now. Can't do it. It's tough,
it definitely takes a different kind of person.
Exactly.
You were just describing concurrent teaching, Kristin. For those teachers out there struggling to reach their students in kind of these concurrent teaching situations or even distance learning still happening in a lot of different places, what are some strategies that have been effective for you guys to create those relationships with those students? Because I hear a lot now as an instructional coach from my teachers that it's impossible to do that. But I've also seen where a lot of people have had success, you know, creating that environment like they did in the face-to-face environment, that they're able still to do that in this kind of virtual or kind of a halfway in between, you know, situation depending upon where you're at. What are some of those strategies that you guys could share with our audience?
So our situation is unique in the sense where our administration developed our classes so that way when the kids were coming back to school, they would just land back in our classroom, which is perfect because what it allowed us to do was it allowed us to create the culture and the classroom environment that you would normally have in a traditional setting, in an in-person setting. And that way, when the kids did come back to school, they were already comfortable with everything. And so, you know, we really try to plan for the digital side of it first and then back that into the classroom. And so that way, you know, it's the same experience on both sides of the lens. And like I said, it just made a really seamless experience for those kids who did eventually come back to school. You know, they felt like they were already friends with everybody. There was no crossover there, and it was a really easy experience going from home back into the classroom. You know, and there's lots of other platforms that we use that help that, like FlipGrid, for example, you know, because then the kids are able to collaborate and connect with each other, see each other, in some cases without a mask on. And so, you know, when they come back to school and they see with the mask, then that's a little bit different, you know, because we have to wear masks at school. Sure. But for the most part, you know, it's been a really easy experience just planning for the digital side and then backing that into the classroom.
Yeah, and I think getting the kids involved in it too. So in addition to like FlipGrid, like Teams, like there's a lot of programs. So at the beginning, you know, it really was like, okay, I'm the teacher. I've got to listen to you. And I've got to listen to you. And I'm like literally wearing earpieces. But now we're to the point where the kids are allowed to talk and see each other. So if we're doing a conversation or we're doing something that needs, I will literally take that laptop and unplug it and set it on a desk and be like, all right, guys, here you go, go. And I put my kids in charge, and the kids sitting at the table will sit and have the conversation, or they'll flip the cards with the kids, or they'll interact with the kids, and giving them that kind of ownership. Let them create the relationships with their classmates, you know, going into a Teams call and having breakout rooms where the kids from home and the kids in person are sitting there talking together and doing things. So it's not I'm the only relationship with the kids, that they're building those relationships together, I think has really helped.
That's awesome. So let's talk about the new book. We last had you on just over a year ago when you released your first book. And so now you're back with FlipGrid in the interactive class. Tell us just a little bit about what you did differently in this book, other than obviously a focus on FlipGrid.
So with this particular book, anybody who's familiar with FlipGrid knows how quickly things evolve and change. And so we spent a lot of time working with the team at FlipGrid and trying to figure out what the best way to deliver this would be, because we couldn't get it out fast enough before something else changed, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was our challenge, was really trying to figure out, what can we write about that's not going to already be out of date by the time it gets pressed.
What are those foundational things that really hold up FlipGrid as for what it is?
So we had to get kind of clever with it. So you'll see, I think probably even more QR codes in this one. And the reason why is because then we have control to be able to keep that updated. So, if you there's an example that you want to see that you're reading about, we now have the ability to keep that updated. So you just scan that QR code and you're going to see what the latest version of FlipGrid would look like. And so
smart.
Thinking out of the box kind of like that, and we can't take credit for that. That was the FlipGrid guys that came up with that idea. But that was probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, the original book is more about the definition of what interactive learning is and how you can take that into your classroom and your lessons. This book is more like, okay, FlipGrid is interactive and everything about FlipGrid is interactive. So what are some of those pillars that FlipGrid stands on that you should have in your inner classroom? So there's a chapter on pedagogy, and then there's a chapter on global learning. There's a chapter on digital citizenship. So some of those pillars that FlipGrid stands on that we feel like should also be part of the interactive class, but then how they kind of what is interactive pedagogy? What do we believe? What is part of our pedagogy? Why do we want to have global learning? What kinds of things do we, there's a whole chapter on social learning and social media and how we can integrate those things and why we should be integrating them. So it is a little bit more hyper-focused on FlipGrid, but really the whole first half of it are those pillars, and then just kind of loosely ties in how FlipGrid is related to those things.
Yeah, and then of course the second half is all the lesson ideas. So I think there's 75 plus pages of lesson ideas, and I would say probably 85 to 90% of them all have lessons that are attached to them, meaning they're already in the FlipGrid Disco library. So you'd be able to scan that QR code and find it and then download it. Yeah.
The teaching is the teaching, right? No matter what changes with the system or the user interface or whatever, which FlipGrid is growing fast and is moving fast, and so many things are changing, but the teaching is the teaching, and that's a solid thing to rest the ideas on, right?
Yeah, the act of teaching, we always talk about the content that you teach doesn't really matter when it comes to the interactive class, but the how you teach and those concepts and those philosophies that you kind of want to keep in your head as you're planning anything with your students, those don't really change. They don't, whether it's a platform that you've been using for 10 years or that you just started using, you still want to ask yourself those same kinds of questions before, evaluating whether you want to do it or not. So
FlipGrid has not even been out 10 years, I don't think. Maybe 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 years FlipGrid has been around. There are lots of applications, lots of programs, lots of tools that teachers use that don't have books about them, that don't have, I want to use the word rabid, but they don't have activated communities of educators that are really, really into using their product like FlipGrid has. What is it about FlipGrid? Why does FlipGrid have such a loyal, passionate, fan base? It maybe is a word. Yeah. Enough that you guys would say, let's write a whole book about how to use a tool that's only been around for less than 10 years, to show you how great it is. What is it about FlipGrid?
You hit it when you said community. That community is what makes that program. And again, I'm going to go back to those pillars. That community is part and has been built to be that community, not because they love FlipGrid and they love pushing the green plus sign. It's because they believe in global learning. They believe in equity. They believe in digital citizenship. And these are a lot of things that weren't really at the forefront. When I was a teacher, I didn't go to school and I wasn't taught digital equity. I wasn't taught how to be a global learner. And so it was like kind of those concepts that you had talked about at conferences or you would hear, but they were kind of always swept under the rug. And then this platform comes out and it, with maybe not even realizing that it embodied all of these things that people were like, oh my gosh, this was the thing I needed to teach that. No, this was the thing I needed to teach that. This is what I was looking to fix this. And it kind of just brought all of these different people from all of these different places together, not even meaning to, because it was fixing whatever that one thing was that they were missing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, it comes back to, they always used to use the term amplify, right? And like, just your typical, educator would, let's just say, tweet something about FlipGrid out there, and then they would retweet it, but like before you knew it, you'd have 60 people, like in a matter of a couple of minutes, that loved your tweet, right? And so I think it's just all a matter of like, this is, this really cool tool that's super easy to use, and any age can use it, from, pre-K up to like
and it's free,
the university, and it's free, right? And so, and they've done such a good job of making sure, like you said, it's equitable and accessible as well. Like I have a deaf student this year who loves using it, and it's not for the reasons that you probably would think. She loves using it because she can use the ASL stickers that are in there, and
she can show people her sign.
She can sign on them.
That's
and
awesome.
The kids in my class have taken a liking to learning sign language, and they're on a mission now to try to figure out if they can learn sign language. It's really cool because, and I don't know much about it, and I'm still learning more about it, but even the sign names that she gives them, which is really, really cool. They love that. And so they've kind of earned their sign names, which is really cool. And she always looks at me, she goes, okay, Mr.
That's what we were joking about earlier. Like, we're like, okay. She like cracks jokes on there. But like, think about this platform that, allows a student who's deaf to communicate and joke with their classmates, but also lets a biology teacher, allow students to, report on data, but also allows kids to do math homework in kindergarten. Like, it literally fills that gap for so many teachers. And like I said, I can't think of another platform that does all of that. That's free, that does all of these different things. And we never thought we were going to write another book. Like, this was not something, but because it does so many of those things and it embodies so much of what we believe in terms of interactive learning, people started coming and saying, like, when are you going to write FlipGrid in the interactive class? Like, that's your tool. Like, that's your thing. And after so many times, we looked at each other and thought, shoot, we have to write this book. Like, people are going to, like, they literally gave us the title of it.
But I think the reason why it caught on as quickly as it did was because, and this goes back to the very beginning, with FlipGrid, is that you could limit the conversation as the educator to however short or long you wanted. And what that did was it prevented that talkative student who's always calling out in class to have the same amount of time to discuss their ideas as that shy and reluctant student in the back of the room. So essentially what you did was you took that shy and reluctant student in the back of the room and you moved them right to the front. And so now everybody's voice is the same time, is at the same distance, right? And there's the same amount of time to record. And so it gave everybody that equal amount of playing time. And I think that when educators started catching on to that, they're like, whoa, this is powerful, and this is something that I can use in my own classroom.
The other thing that they did that we were talking a little bit about this before in a different term, like in a completely different context, but they listened to educators. Mm-hmm. I don't know of another single app that I use, paid for, free, that asks me on a regular basis what I need, what I don't like about it, what I want to change, and then does it. And then comes up with these updates.
Even if they don't like it.
Even if they don't like it, because there have been updates and we're like, that listens to teachers. And so often I think teachers feel like they're not being listened to and that they're not being heard. And I think that too has something to do with it. The fact that they're trying to build, obviously the best for everyone. So you're not always making everyone happy, but that responsiveness, which is, again, part of that interactive framework, like, that relational, what do you need? Like just today, someone wrote something about, I wish this would happen. And whoop, they swooped in with like, here, tell us what you want. Like, add it here. They have a whole section on their, website just to put in comments of what you'd like to see the platform become.
There's a lot of EdTech products, and they have ambassadors, and they have people that support their products and tweet about it, whatever it might be. But I actually, when Mike and I were speaking to them at a conference here in Minnesota, I mean, we said this to their faces, to Charlie, the guy who created FlipGrid. I was just telling them and a group of the people that work there that they feel like the most authentic. Like even the people that support them, it's not just because of some kind of hype, you know, kind of like we're just building something up or an ad. It's like a big ad. It's like, no, it's genuine passion for what it can do, what the product can do, and what it has done for like what you were just describing there, as far as for your students, what it's done as far as amplifying their voices or whatever it might be. So it's really the most authentic group of passionate people supporting an ed tech product, which that's a freaking home run. I mean, for them.
The majority
I mean,
of the people who work there are teachers.
Yes.
A lot of them. I mean, the ones that come right up to my head, they're in education. They've been in education.
Yes, makes a big difference.
Love your story. They want to hear your story. They want to hear what you're doing with it. That inspires them.
And the whole idea of where FlipGrid even came from, which is a conversation for another time, but that in and of itself is a really cool story. Yeah. Because, I mean, that was obviously, like, if you think about where that story started and where it is now, not much has changed, right? It's all about students. So.
Yeah. So how can our listeners connect with both of you online, and where can we go find your new book?
All right. Well, we're at the Merrills EDU and all platforms.
TikTok included.
Oh, stop it. He keeps saying this, but we're slow start on TikTok. When we don't dance or sing. So
those just don't make it on.
Though I would pay to watch Joe dance.
He did a funny little head one that was pretty entertaining.
You let me know. I'll amplify that.
There you go, yeah.
More like little micro tips and like fun things there. But on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep, our website.
Our website's at themerrillsedu.com.
It's 2 R's and 2 L's because?
There's 2 of us.
How good is that?
How corny is that?
I love it.
Yeah, so
you can tell Joe came up with it because
I did. She
every
drives her nuts.
Time
because he says, "How good is that?" and she says, "How corny is that?"
Every time we'll be talking and like, why? I'm like, because there's 2 of us. So, yeah, I mean, you can reach out to us on any platform. We have a spot on our website. I'm surprised by how many people really do. I think we get more people reaching out to us on our website than we do on like social media platforms. But anywhere you can just message us, whether it's just how to get our book, which is on Amazon. If anyone wants to order more than one copy, like if you want to order for a school, contact us directly because we can get it much cheaper. But it's on Amazon. Both of them are on Amazon. And yeah, so...
We'll put all those links in the show notes so that people have all of the ways to get in touch with you and to buy the book. Kristin and Joe Merrill, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you so
we
much.
love being with you guys.
The Sandbox is creating a learning ecosystem where educators can learn in weekly streams, bring ideas into their classrooms, collaborate with other educators, and become Sandbox ambassadors.
Our goal through the stream is to show the world how low the barrier can be to teaching and learning game making through our no-code and accessible platform. Anyone can do it. Passion and education. You can feel it in the streams as we explore and share ideas around game design implementation in your teaching practice.
Join the community to learn more at go.participate.com/sandbox.
Thanks for listening to On Education. My name is Glen Irvin. My co-host is Mike Washburn. On Education is part of the On Podcast Media Network. You can listen to this show and many others by great educators like Monica Burns, Mike Matera, Tisha Richmond, and many more by visiting onpodcastmedia.com. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website, oneducationpodcast.com. You can tweet us at oneducationpod. Mike is at Mr. Washburn on Twitter, and I can be found on Twitter at IrvSpanish. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/oneducationpod. We're also on Instagram at oneducationpod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we would be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Participate, for supporting us. Check out participate.com to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening, stay awesome, and see you soon.